And also, big thank you to Jack Bryant, our council president, who arranged for the lunch and all the volunteers. Thank you, Sarah.
So thank you all. I'd like to start my presentation with an opening prayer. It's an invocation and call to engagement. People of different beliefs, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different gender expressions, different political affiliations. And you make us one, justice-seeking God. Give us the courage and strength to reach beyond our differences so that we can find our similarities. Our desire to care for the earth, our call to tend to the oppressed, our respect for the dignity of all your people, our longing for peace. God of us all, move us to work with you and one another to achieve our mutual goals, your vision of wholeness and peace, even in these days of contention, sound bites, and personal attacks. Give us the courage and strength to put our faith into action. Amen.
Amen.
So this piece is called Interfaith Advocacy, and I think that's super important because obviously I work for this organization called LEAM, Lutherans Engaging Advocacy Ministry, which is really, I would say, mistitled. Because clearly in the state of New Jersey, which is particularly our focus, working as Lutherans is a lovely thing, but completely inadequate. If we don't partner with our brothers and sisters in faith of all faiths in the state, we are so diminished. In the sense that we can be so much more effective when we walk together into the State House with our imams and our Muslim friends and neighbors, and with our Jewish friends and neighbors, and with the Sikh community, and with all the other communities that are our neighbors here in the state of New Jersey. We're one of the most diverse states in the nation, and have 43 different religious communities represented in our state in big ways. So what I'm saying by that is that we share so much common concern as people of faith. If you talk to anyone who is leading a faith organization in the state, this knock at the door, I need some place to stay tonight, the pit in the bottom of your stomach feels the same. It doesn't matter if you're a rabbi, an imam, because, ready for this? There is no place. Yeah. We have more animal shelters in the state of New Jersey than we have shelters for human beings. Yeah. Not kidding. So many more, 4 times as many actually. So the point is this, that as people of faith, we share common values, particularly Abrahamic faith. We share the common values, and in every one of the sacred religions of the world, there is some kind of language about loving your neighbor, living with your neighbor, forgiving your neighbor. Neighbor love is a unifying message for all of our faith traditions. And so when we talk about advocacy, it's, as you can well imagine, it's not a big step to go from understanding, loving our neighbor, to then asking the question, why is our neighbor in need? Why is our neighbor unhoused? Why is our neighbor food insecure? Why is our neighbor experiencing violence? Why is our neighbor, you know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? When you start from this premise of loving your neighbor, it moves us into really important conversations around not just, and I don't mean this because we run a big food ministry where I am. I mean, it's not just about giving people food, which is super important, but it's also about asking the questions about economic inequality, about chronic food scarcity and food deserts. It's about asking the structural questions of why it is that these systems keep perpetuating itself. So, having said all that, you all know a lot about advocacy because you're here today. You all know a lot of tricks and tips around that. So, I'm really pleased that you're here. And what I'm going to do is put you to work, because you don't put people like this in the same room and don't get them going on doing something. So lots of brain power, in my opinion. So what I have is 5 areas, and these aren't exhaustive by any means, but these 5 seem like they were kind of no-brainers in this work today. I have 5 areas of advocacy that I am going to send you into small groups to work on. And your task is to create, hypothetically, but hypotheticals become reality. So this is a hypothetical advocacy project that you believe a community of faith, maybe even your congregation, funny that, a community of faith might engage in related to these issues and advocacy. Okay? Does that make sense? So you're going to have a job to plan a project. And you can, and that's the only best goal. If it requires money, you're going to write a grant for the money. Okay, money done. If you're going to, how are you going to do this? And just spin it out amongst yourselves. In each packet, I have some resources on the topic, so you don't have to go it alone. I provided you with some handy-dandy little resource things. Or do something else that you know. It's fine with me. I just had these in the packets because I thought it would be helpful to have a jumping off place, but it's by no means the limiting. And what I'm going to ask is to remind you all that we know that advocacy, there's all kinds of different parts of advocacy. Certainly, you might all think of legislative advocacy, and that's super important and well within the need of our work. But then there's also advocacy around building relationships. There's advocacy around education. There's advocacy, you see what I'm saying? So there's all kinds of different levels. And honestly, some of the advocacy that's done at the grassroots level, particularly like local school boards and zoning boards, and we're a home rule state here in New Jersey. All of those decisions get made locally. And so, attending town council meetings and being a part of chatting with people on the sidelines of a soccer game, and trying to shape public opinion about a particular issue in your community or in the state, those are all super important, effective ways to do advocacy. So when I talk about advocacy as an interfaith work, expand your mind a little bit. Just don't think about it as a postcard campaign. That's not nothing, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, if you think about it, maybe our campaign in this issue of advocacy that we want to work on, maybe we're going to do a real public campaign to shape public opinion, or we're going to try to get a certain policy passed in our local school related to fair education. You go with it, okay? And so that's part of your work, is to think about what the strategy you're going to use. I'll float around and help you, and that'll be fine. The first thing we have is advocating for children's rights and well-being, which is an interfaith task, because all faith traditions talk about the well-being of children, the care of children, God's particular love for children. We as Christians have just been through a whole bunch of texts in the last few weeks on Jesus' particular care for children, but that's not exclusive to Christianity. All of the sacred texts talk about it, and so there's a whole packet on advocating for children. There's a whole packet on, ready for this one, advocating for the environment. All the faith traditions, the global faith traditions, talk about care of creation as language for being engaged in God's work in this world. Now, there's another really, the Sisters of Abraham is a very interesting group, which I would love to see started here. So no pressure. So what that's great. What they do is an interfaith group of women who do book reads together and sit and talk about it. And they have a whole long list of curated books that they think work really well in the setting. And they even have like little suggestions like, before you get together for your first time, maybe you should all read, these two little chapters to get yourself aware of each other's differences. And the whole point of the Abraham Sisters is to do book reads and discuss with people of different faiths. So we all come at a different, very like kitchen table kind of thing. This isn't hard or fancy. It's just a great way to build relationships and to begin to understand one another better. And including in that whole book discussion, all that, is this whole idea of hosting interfaith meals. How important is it? I went to an event not too long ago in Princeton, and it was hosted by the Islamic community, and it was an interfaith feast, and the rabbi and the imam and the Catholic priest, it sounds like a joke, doesn't it? We're all talking about the role of food in their traditions, right? And so it was very funny, because by the time the rabbi got up, he said, okay, let's just say this. We've made we've made food a religious experience in the Jewish community. So the point is that these kind of ways in which we can break down barriers, get to know each other, learn how to support and respect each other, and in fact to dismantle hate, because we know you cannot hate somebody up close. It's really easy to hate somebody when they're those people or that group, but when you know them individually as friends, nobody can hate up close. So it's really important to talk about waging peace in an interfaith context when we can be friends. Okay, and then, of course, housing is a huge issue here in the state of New Jersey. The number one driver of poverty in the state is housing. I'm sorry, Andy, you told me I could move, so I am. So housing is a huge issue. What are the ways in which we as an interfaith community can address the housing crisis here, and particularly affordable housing? Huge issues, and it slices in all kinds of different directions related to discrimination and exclusionary zoning, and honestly income inequality, because we all know that a lot of the housing crisis is driven by the high cost of housing, right? So when you're paying more than 30% of your income for rent each month, you're not making ends meet. You're not paying the rest of your bills. So that's a whole other conversation. And finally, the obvious no-brainer is welcoming the refugees, welcoming migrants and immigrants, and how we as people of faith can stand together and talk about refugees and migrants as God's children. These are not others. They are not illegals. They are human beings who are people of God, who are in terrible binds and terrible circumstances in their homeland. Most of the refugees I talk to, particularly migrants, they want to go home. They don't want to be here. They want to go back home. And so the question is, what can we do as people of God to welcome our neighbors and to welcome those persons and to understand, and particularly in the state of New Jersey, how important immigrants are to our state economy, to our diversity in our state, to the well-being and the stability of our neighborhoods. So, and from my point of view, immigrants are a blessing, not a burden, and how do we live that value out? So we've got a whole packet on refugee welcome. Okay? So, what do you think? So you're going to get put to work, and Joe, what time is it?
19 past
Oh
11.
my gosh, I talked too much. 19 past 11. Okay, so you're going to get 20 minutes, half hour, and you're going to go into your little small groups, and you're going to look through your packet, and you're going to plan an event. You got it? Okay, so remember 3rd grade? You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ready? That way you can work with people you don't know, because you're sitting with people you do know. So, ready? Okay, we'll start here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4. You guys got that?
5.
1,
3,
5,
1,
2, 3.
4, 5. 1, 2, 3.
4.
You're going. So, remember your number, okay? And group number 1, there's a choir room out that way.
Andy? No, I was in the house. Hand my tradition on. What'd you do? I just slid the bottom. I was trying to push them.
Okay, are we all back? We got everybody find their way back? I knew you would because you want lunch. So I knew this was a great time to do this. Nobody's going to dawdle. It's lunchtime. Okay, so I'm going to take some notes because I really like good ideas and I'm going to steal them whenever I hear them. And we are going to say group number 1 who did the children, the care of children, that group that were over in the choir, who's your spokesperson? Yay, come on up, Jay. Yeah, I think we have to come up because Andy wants to video too. Yay, Jay! You have to come up here. And you have to speak into the microphone. I'm just going to stand here and take notes. All right, I'm going to take notes. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. The biggest problem we had at the beginning was trying to figure out what our focus was. Do we want to make an incremental change to a lot of kids, or do we want to make super change to a small population of kids? Because there's so many things that could be done. Then what we settled on was an improvement in the lives of as many children as possible. An after-school program It would be like a safe haven for kids, for a place to go for a few hours after school, which would include tutoring, a place and facilities for doing homework, internet access, maybe some sports, not something like a basketball court or something like that, but smaller sports or smaller events like chess or checkers or things like that. And serving appropriate food, not dinner, but just some snacks, some healthy snacks. And the needs, obviously the grant money, but Sarah's going to handle all that.
Gotcha, no problem.
You need a grant guru. That's my terminology. Someone who knows their way around the workings of the government and where all the cubby holes are, where money and other facilities could be obtained. We need some legal guidance because there'll be a lot of laws which have to be addressed. A space to do this within schools, and the nice thing is.
Oh, you think within the school?
Yeah. So that transportation would be like zero.
Gotcha.
There's an elementary school literally right next door to it.
Nice, perfect.
And the high school is not, that's within walking distance for high school kids. Other central buildings, facilities where that could be done around the corners of the YMCA. And for some kids, transportation to and from. The other big thing we'd need would be people. People for transportation, people to actually educate the kids for the tutoring and the homework and the internet, and to oversee the children and what they're doing, and then for food preparation and service. And then somebody said parental permission, and everybody went, oh, yeah. And how long do we do this? 2 hours, 3 hours each day, and until what time? And the point seems to be what came out was 6 o'clock. I mean, expecting some of the parents to be able to come and get their kids before 6 o'clock might be a problem. So it might have to extend a little bit beyond that.
Nice, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I love this idea, this after school kind of thing. One of my daughters when she was in public school, she had a lot of different, of course, diverse friends. And when all of them, diverse religious groups, when all of them are going through some kind of confirmation type experience. Now, if you're a Jewish kid, you're going through Hebrew school, and if you're Islam, everybody had some dreaded thing that they were all doing. And they used to talk about it at lunch and share their misery with each other about all the things that they were being made to do. You think that's bad? We have to be, it was hysterical. They would share their misery stories. What a great way to build relationships and friends. Nothing like being miserable together to really make good friends. They could all share their. But it was very funny, and she learned so much about different faith traditions, ways of that rite of growing up when kids sort of take more responsibility for their faith. And funny enough, every faith tradition has some version of this. So it was great to hear her stories. I would love that kind of after school sort of thing, a chance to do a little faith sharing, or at least misery sharing. So great, thank you. Group number 2, Andy's here.
I never.
I'm just going to take this back.
Okay. So we, with group number 2, we had the environmental advocacy decision or section. So for the environment, our first step would be to find unity in our cause as people of faith, not just as Lutherans, but with other religious groups as well. And so part of this program would also be we would have the common ground organized among other faiths, but then it would have to be localized to each individual community, because different communities where we'll be going with this have different standards for recycling, for how the secular government might take care of creation through waste management. But so we would have to define like the local needs. However, the beauty of this would be we could get other local organizations involved, and so with that we would talk to Pastor Sara and Bishop Tracy about grants and partnerships somewhere to the tune of probably $100,000 regarding transportation, and that would be because ideally the education aspect of this would be to educate youth and continue to educate adults on responsibility with creation care and what we can each do in our daily lives. Also, the best thing would be somehow if we could talk with local school districts. This is where the money would come in to provide like field trips to get kids connected to local governments, because those interplays of our faith in public life are crucial. But in order to get kids involved, also it has to be either like on Sundays, like after church, or during the school week, and make it at the same time, and maybe ironically enough, secular enough to get everyone involved, while it remains an advocacy element from ecumenical sources. But then once we get localized is where even more fun begins. The churches and houses of worship, regardless, can get connected to other localized things. I thought in Camden, Urban Promise, which is a ministry that provides schooling for perhaps disadvantaged youth in the area. They actually have a boathouse, and they will do tours of the Delaware. And so I thought, well, in the Camden area, what if the churches got organized and did that boat tour, but everybody took plastic bags with them to help pull trash out of the Delaware, or things like that. So to keep that more of a organic partnership at the grassroots level, while also having fun, because kayaking through the river is fun. And if you haven't done it, you should. I can vouch for that. But then the beauty also comes in where there isn't necessarily a cookie cutter option for everybody, because everybody's geography looks different. But then to follow up with this would be a year-long program for for churches and communities in the area to participate in. So it wouldn't be like a one and done thing. But we can finish it up with real success stories. And the real success stories is rooted in the fact that it is important to see like the difference that has been made, be it on the policy level, be it on the local level. Just seeing your side of the road cleaner goes a long way. We reflect, I had someone tell me one time how you treat your neighborhood, whether you pick up trash or not, reflects how you feel about yourself. It reflects how you feel about the world. And so just going out with a bag of trash as a community, as a youth group, even picking up trash, reminds us all that we do have skin in the game together. So that's my 10 minutes of top-down, solving the world's ecological problems. So thank you, and thank you to Group 2.
Thank you. I love it. And to your question about granting for environmental justice stuff, Fordham University just rolled out a $40 million grant for just this kind of stuff. And there's $40 million, and it's a rolling application, so you don't all have to have it done this week. So if you're looking for environmental interfaith work that builds communities up, we know where to get you some money. Okay, that's it. So, and next group was number 3. Group number 3, there she is.
This was the one. This was the party group.
I told him to go plan a party.
We had to plan an intercultural event, so we decided to do a dinner. What better way to bring people together is to have food. So in our group, we have me, an African American. We have someone from Irish descent, Spanish descent, someone from Finland, and we also know people from Asia, Cuba, and Haiti. So we decided that we would make a dinner reflective of the items that we know best. So we are going to have corned beef and cabbage,
Nice.
yellow rice and hidden peas with roast pork, German potato salad, fried chicken, and collard greens. After we bring each other to the table and as a group, then we discuss how we got here, since we were all immigrants to this country. No one is indigenous in our group. So we would talk about how our ancestors came, and maybe if we're 3rd, 4th, or 5th generations in this country, how we arrived. So we did discuss how some of us arrived through slavery, through famine, through work because they were low wages and how they were used to help build this country, and also how we interact with each other in our community as well as in our churches. Some of our religious backgrounds happen to be Lutherans, Catholics. I'm not sure what the Haitians do, but, and most of them were Catholic and Lutheran, so we were kind of like just pigeonholed into those two groups. But for sure, we all have different backgrounds as far as reaching out and meeting other people and need to reach out and meet other people in our lives.
That's wonderful, thank you.
So one of the reasons that we chose the food and the stereotypical things that we cook is because Grandma was the one that taught Miss Dorothy how to cook. Grandma was the one that taught my niece how to cook. And then being able to talk freely about why those are important to us is because of our background and our culture. And once we're able to do that, we're able to realize why people ended up over here and having the conversations on how do we understand the next person that's coming over here, particularly the Haitians, the Cubans, the people that are coming through the border. Because we understand ourselves and our community a little bit better, we're going to understand why these individuals are coming to our country a little bit better.
Thank you, that's wonderful.
Thank you so much. That's great. Let's just do that. Where's Pastor Joe? There. We need to do this dinner thing. This is a great idea. Yeah. Okay, so number 4. Who was 4? You guys, were you the lobby people were number 4?
No.
You were 5. Okay, so it was the food people, number 4. Were you were in the snack room?
Housing.
You were housing? Who's from housing? Oh, come on up.
Tell us about your housing challenges. I'm taking notes.
We didn't speak that much about our challenge. We ended up speaking more about a personal situation with somebody from one of the churches. But it was a good way to get some information, and maybe we're going to put this on you, I suppose.
Of course.
To be a clearinghouse to, if somebody has a question about someone who is homeless or, as the term came up, chronically homeless, that we could then have somebody, we did have one of the people in our group who knew some information and was able to share that, and hopefully that will help the person from this congregation that needs help. We did take a quick look through the Habitat for Humanity booklet, and they did have a lot of things that talked about ways that we can get together with other faith groups to make a big effort to do something with the homeless and Habitat for Humanity.
Nice, great, thank you.
I just, those of you from Camden County, thank you. I'm going to out somebody. Do you all know Rob Jacobowski?
Yeah.
Do you know Rob? Wait, do you know Rob?
He's one of my parishioners, yeah.
And you know that he's head of Division of Human Services in Camden County? I met with him just the other day. He's a Lutheran, by the way. I just met with him the other day and I said, Rob, build me housing. Rob, we build me housing. He's like, really? I'm like, you know people. Like, the county can do this. Like, are you kidding me? So anyway, so it is important to use your networks and people you know. And I mean, this is a big deal. And so, anyway, so thank you. You keep going on, Rob, and I'll push on too. All right, great, thank you. Yeah.
I'm a big person on stories. So out of our group, we talked about one of those stories that is very important when you're doing advocacy work.
Yes.
Because when you're doing advocacy work, you're not just going to go into it with statistics and numbers and we need this many more houses. And if you have to pay over 30%, if you get a voucher, you're going to only pay 30%. That's fine, but it doesn't give us a face of who's affected by it.
Exactly.
So we had a very important conversation in terms of putting a face.
Absolutely. And you know what? And I think every congregation, I'm not going out on a limb here, I think this is true. Every congregation has somebody as a member or a friend of the congregation that has experienced housing insecurity. I mean, really, let's be honest. And they're all one. I'm serving right now in Berlin as an interim, and the former council president is unhoused at the moment. Because her landlord sold the place out from under her. She had 30 days. Okay, now what? You know, that can happen to anybody. You know what I mean? They sold the place. And so we're not talking about people who are drug addicted or chronically mentally ill. We're talking about us. You know, so these stories are incredibly important. Thank you. Go on up. I know it's almost lunchtime, so I won't belabor this. Take your time.
You have to.
Oh, good. All right. You go right there, and I'm going to come back.
Thank you. I'm the spokesperson because I was stupid enough to take the notes. And I'm the person standing between you and lunch. Anyway, our topic was bringing in and welcoming refugees. And we don't just want to talk about refugees and immigrants. We decided we want to talk about all the new people in our communities. Because the first question that was asked, Dottie asked, where are these people? How do we know them? And the answer was, they're everywhere. So, how do we bring them in? And of course, if you feed them, they will come. So we decided, of course, we would have a dinner and to invite the new people. And at this dinner, we were going to offer these other resources, to get other resources involved so that they could present, have their resources that they could hand out, et cetera, et cetera. We decided we would have legal reps there, people that understood immigration law, to be helpful. Other things, we talked about having ESL classes and where we would get people to instruct those classes. And we said, we have, Rowan University right down the road. We have so many other resources in our communities. I also, somebody mentioned, well, unfortunately there are 2 nurses in the group, so of course we had to say health services. What else we have? How to get the new people there. Now, how do we find out about that? Well, we have, we want to involve other religious groups and faith leaders to get it out into their communities using social media and other social organizations. We decided the best time to hold this event would be a Saturday between 1 and 4, specifically. I guess people get hungry then. Anyway, we would use a facility of a religious group in the area. Not necessarily always, our church, to go out into the other religious groups. The food we had to be very careful about. We wanted to make sure that it was kosher or vegan or, was representative of those people that we would be inviting. We also were going to have speakers there to talk about housing and other community resources. And important, of course, beside the food would be music.
Music.
So we wanted to make sure that we were doing songs in the prominent languages of some of our immigrant and refugee neighbors.
Nice.
And our fundraising, we decided that we wanted to involve the children's groups because children are pretty good at fundraising. It'll give them a project, and children assimilate a lot easier than some of the older folks that we recognize in this refugee group. And of course, grants. So, is there anything you want to add?
No,
that
works for me.
Okay, thank you.
I love it. I love this. This is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, wonderful. I want to say, to your question about assimilation, and this is just something I find fascinating. Maybe some of you remember the old grandma, the Italian grandma who lived in the neighborhood who never learned to speak English because she didn't have to. And, well, right, because, she just said the neighborhood. Those situations are way, way, way less possible these days. Most immigrants are assimilating within a half a generation. It used to be 2 generations till people learned English and really got assimilated. The assimilation process is so much faster now. Part of that's because of the possibilities of working and moving around outside of your community. Some of it's because people come with some basic English. Some of it's because of the internet and television and all the different ways people pick up language and culture. But it is so important to help people assimilate because that really does go a long way to beginning to develop and grow their economic prosperity. So thank you for that. That's wonderful. I love the idea of a big party with some food and music. Wow, great way to get your community together. Thanks. Anybody else? Great ideas. I have notes. I have, whatever. If you all in your congregation say, hey, we went to this wonderful workshop and we came up with this idea, do you know how to reach? Do you know how to find me? There's two easy ways to find me. The easiest way is my cell phone number. Thank you. The easiest way to find me, ready for this? 609. And we'll publish it. 440-8608. Send me a text. Or give me a quick call. If I can't pick it up right then, I'll pick it up later. But or send me a text. My email, I'm at the Synod office. Lilja, Lilja @njsynod.org. Not hard, but it's easy to find me. So you need some help. You need some ideas. You want to move forward with something like you've heard today. Let's do it. Okay? Thanks. Now, Pastor Joseph. Oh, I have a prayer.
You have a prayer?
I have a prayer. Shouldn't we pray? It's a service of prayer. Okay, this is a Sufi prayer for peace for all of you. Send thy peace, O Lord, which is perfect and everlasting, that our souls may radiate peace. Send thy peace, O Lord, that we may think, act, and speak harmoniously. Send thy peace, O Lord, that we may be contented and thankful for thy bounteous gifts. Send thy peace, O Lord, that amidst our worrying strife we may enjoy thy bliss. Send thy peace, O Lord, that we may endure all, tolerate all in the thought of thy grace and mercy. We give you thanks for all your blessings of this life. Help us to always be thankful. Amen.
Amen.